Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I am bringing you my June TBR. So these are some of the books that I am going to be trying to read in June. If you've watched one of my TBRs before, you know they're pretty relaxed. I do have particular categories that I pick out books from, but I don't put any pressure on myself to read these books. I'm very relaxed about it. Before I get into the books, there are a couple of bits of housekeeping that I would like to tell you guys about. First of all, if you weren't already aware, I am currently doing a master's degree in publishing at the University of Derby, and as part of my final project for this degree, I am creating an anthology of LGBT plus or queer identifying poets. And if you are a LGBT plus or queer identifying poet, I would love for you to submit your work to this collection. I'll leave a link to a Google Doc down below in the description so you can find out all of the details, but essentially I would like a maximum of 5 pages of poetry on any theme along with a brief author bio. You can be a poet of any experience level, whether you've been published before or you haven't, it doesn't make a difference to me. I'm just gonna judge it based on the quality of the work. Anyways, all the information for that is in the description. And also, this seems like a bit of a random thing, but I now have a Depop page, and if you don't know what Depop is, it's basically like eBay, but specifically for clothes. So I'll leave that linked down below in the description as well, because I've done a pretty big clear out of clothes recently, and if you are someone who's interested in like secondhand clothing, if you are living that sustainable lifestyle of buying secondhand, I'll leave it down below. So every month I like to read at least one book of non-fiction, and the non-fiction book I'm going to prioritise in June is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. I have read a lot of Maya Angelou's poetry before and I absolutely love it. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. This is her memoir. I think she's got like quite a few memoirs and this is the first one. And this is about her growing up in the American South in the 1930s. I also like to read at least one poetry book each month, and in June I'm going to pick up Nobody Told Me by Holly McNish. Now I know this is poetry as well as like some short writings as well, where I'm not sure if there's like a mixture of essays or stories. I know it's not solely poetry in here, but Holly McNish is one of my absolute favourite poets, and I'm going to see her perform at Derby Book Festival, and I would love to read this one before I go and see her. I've read some of her other collections before, but not this one. This is about becoming a parent for the first time, and I think it has a lot to do with Holly's understanding of herself, of commercialism, of gender, of love in the wake of that becoming a part of her life. I also like to read a short story collection every month, and this month I would like to read Independence Day and Other Stories by Pramaja Ananta Tower, and this is translated from the Indonesian by Willem Samuels. I actually don't really know much about the content of these stories, but I know this author is one of Indonesia's most famous writers. This was given to me by the publisher Paper and Ink at London Book Fair. Every month I also like to read a classic, and in my last TBR I said this. I've been pretty unorganised when it comes to reading my one classic book a month. I've got it done, but I've kind of scrambled towards the end of the month to get the book finished because I feel like I put it off for some reason. So I'm going to be trying to be a bit better with this one and spread it out throughout the course of May and see if that makes the reading experience a bit less stressful. Yeah. So I didn't even open Tess of the D'Urbervilles, so that's on my TBR. Again. With my TBR every month, I also do something called Tops and Bottoms, and the idea behind this is that I read a book from the top of my TBR, so a book that was in my latest book haul, and a book from the bottom of my TBR, which is one of the 12 books that has been on my TBR the longest, and I did a full video where I spoke about those 12 books. But the one from the bottom of my TBR that I have chosen for June is Daughter by Jane Shemilt. I feel like the guilt of having not read this book yet has been really weighing me down, and it sounds like such a negative phrase, but I'm really looking forward to getting it out of the way. I just don't want it to weigh on my conscience anymore. I want to find out whether I'm going to enjoy this book or whether it's going to be a DNF. And the book I would like to read from the top of my TBR, so from my latest book haul, which I will leave linked down below in the description as well, is Queenie by Candice Carty Williams. Now this book is massive. I think it's like sold over 10,000 copies already, but I don't feel like I've heard that many people talking about it on BookTube for some reason. This is about a woman named Queenie who is a journalist, and it is essentially just one of those books that is about a woman navigating her life and the tribulations and considerations she has in relation to her romantic and love life and her career, the understanding of her sense of self. And I think in many ways it would be easy to call this book the something Bridget Jones, because it is about a woman in that period of her life. But what I've really enjoyed from hearing Candice talk about this book is how it's so much more than that. She didn't see any of those kinds of books depicting something that she recognized from her own life and her friends' lives. So that is what this book is, and it sounds so up my street, and I'm also obsessed with this cover and the pink sprayed edges. And the final book I'm going to tell you guys about today is one that is selected from a random number generator. And the book that was picked from that this month was Tin Man by Sarah Winman, and I'm so excited to read this one. I know this book is about the relationship between two boys or two young men, and how they, I think, gradually grew apart as they got older. I also believe there is bisexual representation in this book, which is something that I'm always on the lookout for. I read another of Sarah Winman's books, I think back in January, When God Was a Rabbit, and I really enjoyed that book, but I think I'm going to enjoy this one even more, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard nothing but positive reviews. So these are the books that I'm going to be reading in June, and this wasn't intentional, but it has turned out to be the most aesthetically pleasing stack of books ever. As they always are, all of the books that I've mentioned will be linked down below in the description if you want to check them out and find out a little bit more. I would love to have a chat with you guys down in the comments, and you guys can let me know what you're currently reading, whether you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know any thoughts that you have down below in the comments. I hope you guys are having a brilliant day, and I will talk to you in my next video.